Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're so glad you could join us. And hey, if you're aiming to really sharpen your English skills for everyday life and especially for travel, we've got tons more practical language insights planned for you.
That's right.
Okay, so today we're jumping into something really, really fundamental. It's about navigating the real world, whether you're exploring some unfamiliar city streets or maybe just trying to find something in your own neighborhood. We're talking about how to ask for help and directions confidently, and also how to manage hotel bookings and deal with those little hiccups that can sometimes pop up when you're staying somewhere.
Yeah, those hiccups can be stressful if you're not prepared, can't they? We've pulled together a really practical set of phrases, examples, real-world stuff to walk you through.
Exactly. Think of this session as like stocking your communication toolkit.
Precisely. It's for those moments when you need a bit of guidance or, maybe your travel plans hit a slight snag. Our mission today really is to give you not just the words, the actual phrases, but also build up that confidence so you can actually use them effectively.
Right. We want to help you turn those situations that could be stressful, maybe a bit awkward, into smoother, much more positive interactions, less panic, more progress.
Couldn't have said it better. It's all about making things easier and less intimidating.
Okay, great. So let's kick things off with something super common. Needing directions. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? A bit lost, maybe turned around.
Oh, definitely. Whether it's a huge, sprawling city or even just a slightly confusing local area, knowing how to politely ask for help. It's such a core skill.
It really is. And the resources we looked at, they consistently emphasize starting politely. It's not just about manners, is it?
Not at all. It actually makes a huge practical difference. Starting with something like, "Excuse me," or "Sorry to bother you," it signals respect. It shows you recognize you're potentially interrupting someone's day.
And people respond better to that.
Generally, yes. Think about it if someone just abruptly stops you and demands information versus someone who politely gets your attention first. You're naturally going to feel more inclined to help the polite person. Right?
That makes total sense. It sort of warms them up to your request, sets a friendly tone right from the start.
Exactly. You're establishing a brief, positive social contract in a way.
Okay, so what are some of those key polite phrases the sources recommend for asking for directions? The go-to options?
Well, the classics are classics for a reason. "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to..." That's probably the most standard and versatile one.
Nice and clear.
Or a slightly more vulnerable approach can work well too. "Hi, I'm a bit lost. Can you help me find..." It shows you need help and invites empathy.
I like that one. "I'm a bit lost." It's relatable. What else?
If you feel like you might be imposing, especially if someone looks busy, starting with "Sorry to bother you, but..." is a good touch. "Sorry to bother you, but where is the nearest bank?" for example.
That acknowledgement of their time. Yeah, that seems considerate.
It is. And if you have a general idea but need confirmation, something like "Could you point me in the direction of..." works well. It suggests you're not completely clueless, just need a little nudge.
Like, am I heading the right way for the station? Kind of thing?
Precisely. Or for a really specific need, just a quick, "Is there a pharmacy bus stop ATM nearby?" Get straight to the point after that initial polite opening.
And the golden rule seems to be, always start with, "Excuse me." It's like the universal opener for asking strangers for help.
It really is. It's the polite signal to request someone's attention. So simple, but so effective.
Okay, let's make this more concrete. Can we look at some of those sample dialogues, see how these phrases play out?
Absolutely. Let's take sample dialogue 1. Someone needs a bank. They start with, "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the nearest bank?"
Standard, polite, clear, objective.
Exactly. And the local person responds, "Sure. Walk 2 blocks down this street, then turn left. You'll see it right next to the gas station."
Okay, so direct instructions, and importantly, a landmark next to the gas station.
Yes. Those landmarks are crucial. They turn abstract directions, "turn left," into something visual you can actually look for. "Okay, I need to find the gas station." It makes it much less likely you'll overshoot the turn.
Like little mental breadcrumbs you said earlier. I like that analogy. It helps anchor the directions.
It really does. Now, sample dialogue 2. The person is looking for a bus stop.
Okay.
They use, "Hi, I'm trying to find the closest bus stop. Can you help me?" Again, friendly opening, clear need.
And the response.
The local says, "Of course. Just go straight for about 3 minutes. The bus stop is right in front of the supermarket."
Ah, okay. So here we have another landmark, the supermarket, but also a time estimate. About 3 minutes. That's useful too, isn't it?
Very useful. It gives you a sense of scale. Is it a quick walk or a longer trek? 3 minutes tells you it's pretty close. It manages expectations.
Right, so you're not walking for 10 minutes wondering if you missed it.
Exactly. And then sample dialogue 3. This one's set in a tourist area, someone looking for a museum entrance.
Okay, so likely close by already.
Probably. The traveler asks, excuse me, where's the entrance to the museum? A bit more direct, maybe implies they can see the museum building itself, but not the way in.
Makes sense.
And the local answers, it's right around the corner. When you reach the fountain, turn right.
Okay, right around the corner, that suggests really close proximity.
It generally does, yes.
Yeah.
A very short walk, and again, a key landmark. The fountain. Turn right at the fountain. Super clear visual cue.
These examples really drive home how effective a polite start and a clear question are, and how much those little details in the answers, landmarks, time estimates, help the person asking.
Absolutely. The quality of the answer often depends on the clarity of the question, and those extra details make the directions much more actionable.
Now, sometimes just knowing the basic direction isn't quite enough, is it? You might need more context, like, can I actually walk there?
That's a very common follow-up need, definitely.
That's right.
Especially in unfamiliar places where distances can be deceiving on a map.
So what are some good ways to ask about that? About the distance, or maybe if walking is even the best option?
Our sources suggest some really practical questions. A simple, direct one is it within walking distance? That's probably the most common way to ask if you can get there on foot easily.
Okay, straightforward.
Or you could ask for advice. Should I take a taxi or can I walk?
Mm-hmm.
This invites the local's opinion based on, distance, safety, maybe the terrain.
Or they might know if it's uphill all the way or something.
Exactly. They have that local knowledge. Another option is just a general feeler. Is it far from here? This prompts a more general response like, oh no, it's quite close, or yeah, it's a fair ways out.
Gives you a ballpark idea.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget the visual approach. Especially now, everyone has smartphones. Asking, can you show me on the map?
Mm-hmm.
While holding out your phone or a paper map. That can be incredibly helpful.
Oh yeah, for visual learners like me, seeing the route drawn out is often much clearer than just hearing second left, then third right.
Totally. Seeing it spatially can make all the difference. Sometimes the person might even trace the route with their finger on your screen.
All great follow-up tools to get the full picture. Okay, so you've asked politely, maybe asked a clarifying question about distance. Now comes the next challenge. Actually understanding the directions someone gives you.
Yes. This is where things can sometimes get tricky. People might speak quickly, use local slang or references you don't know, or just give complex instructions.
Right. You might understand what they said, but not what it means in practice. Like, what does just around the corner really mean?
Exactly. That phrase is a great example. The sources clarify that it's just around the corner usually means it's very close, probably less than a block away, maybe a minute or two walking. But, context matters.
Okay, good to have a general sense of that one. What about other common phrases like time estimates?
You often hear things like, it's about a 5-minute walk, or it'll take you about 10 minutes. These are usually pretty reliable estimates, assuming a normal walking pace. Again, helps you gauge the distance.
Right. What about the actual turn-by-turn stuff?
You'll hear, go straight down this road, or keep going straight. That means continue in the same direction, don't turn off.
Simple enough.
Then you get specific turns. Take the first left, make a right at the next corner. It's the second street on your right. These require you to actively count the streets or intersections.
Gotta pay attention there.
Definitely. And then there are directions relative to landmarks, which we already touched on. Phrases like, it's across from the pharmacy, or it's next to the post office, or it's just past the big church.
Super helpful if you can see the pharmacy or the post office or the church.
Exactly. The landmark is only useful if it's easily visible or identifiable. Sometimes people reference places that aren't obvious, which could be confusing.
True. Okay, sometimes directions aren't just one or two steps, right? They can be more complex. Sample Dialogue 4 had an example of that, didn't it? Directions to a park.
Yes, that's a good example of multi-step directions. The local says, sure, walk 2 blocks, take a right at the traffic light, and then it's about half a block down on your left side.
Okay, let's break that down. Walk 2 blocks. That means cross 2 streets, basically.
Correct. Walk along the current street until you've passed 2 intersections.
Then take a right at the traffic light. That's a clear action linked to a very specific landmark, the traffic light.
Yep, can't miss that. And then it's about half a block down on your left side.
So after you turn right at the light, you don't go all the way to the next intersection.
Right. You go about halfway along that block, and the park entrance or whatever it is will be on your left.
That half a block instruction requires a bit more judgment maybe than at the corner.
It does. It's an estimate.
Yeah.
But it tells you roughly where to look once you make that turn. It's still very helpful guidance.
Understanding that sequence block turn distance is key when you get longer directions like that. But I can see how easily someone could get flustered trying to remember all those steps, especially if said quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Information overload is real when you're already feeling a bit lost or stressed. And that's precisely why knowing how to ask for clarification is just as important as knowing how to ask for directions in the first place.
Right. It's okay to admit you didn't get it all. Better than wandering off completely wrong.
Much better. Swallow your pride, save yourself time and frustration. The sources give us some excellent, polite ways to ask for that clarification.
Okay, so what are the good phrases if someone spoke too fast, for example?
A simple and very effective one is, "Sorry, could you repeat that more slowly, please?" The please has politeness, and more slowly directly addresses the speed issue.
Good one. What if you have a map?
Then asking, "Would you mind showing me on my map?" is fantastic. As we said, visual confirmation can be incredibly helpful. Most people are happy to quickly point it out.
Turns abstract words into a concrete line on a map. Love it. And what if you just miss part of it? Blanked out for a second.
A straightforward and polite way is, "I didn't quite catch that. Could you explain it again?" Or maybe, "Sorry, I missed the last part. Could you say that bit again?" It acknowledges you were listening, but just need a specific part repeated.
These are all so useful. It takes the pressure off feeling like you have to understand everything perfectly the first time. It's okay to ask again.
Absolutely. Communication is a two-way street. It's perfectly fine to ask for help in understanding the help you're being given.
Okay, fantastic. So we've covered asking for directions, understanding them, clarifying them. Now let's shift focus a bit to something hopefully rarer, but even more critical, asking for help in an emergency.
Right. This is information you hope you never need, but being prepared can make an enormous difference in a stressful, potentially dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Knowing what to say clearly and quickly is vital.
Absolutely. In those high-stress moments, fumbling for words is the last thing you want. So what are the absolute essential phrases our sources highlight for emergencies if you need help right now?
The most direct, universal call is simply help or help. I need assistance. It's understood almost everywhere and signals urgency.
Okay, cut straight to the chase. What about medical situations?
Knowing how to say, "Can you call an ambulance?" or "Please call 911 in the U.S. is critical. Or describing the immediate need, "My friend needs help urgently."
Right. And what if it's not medical, but maybe theft or loss?
Phrases like, "I've lost my wallet, what should I do?" or "I need to report a theft" are important. These signal you need help finding authorities or taking the next steps.
Okay. And finding those authorities or medical help.
Key questions are, where is the nearest police station? Or is there a hospital nearby? Knowing how to ask for the location of help is crucial.
And if you yourself are feeling unwell,
Being able to communicate that simply, "I don't feel well, can someone help me?" or "I need a doctor." It alerts people around you that you require assistance.
these are definitely phrases worth mentally bookmarking. Let's look at the sample dialogues again. Sample 5 was a medical emergency.
Yes. In that scenario, the person says urgently, "Excuse me, my friend needs an ambulance. He's feeling very dizzy."
Okay, so immediate request, needs an ambulance, plus a brief, helpful symptom, feeling very dizzy.
Exactly. That little bit of context can help the person assisting or the emergency dispatcher. And the local's response is ideal. "Stay calm. I'll call 911 right away." Reassurance and immediate action.
That's what you hope for. And sample dialogue 6 involved a lost wallet.
Right. The traveler says, "Hi, I just realized my wallet is missing. Can you tell me where the nearest police station is?"
Again, clear statement of the problem, wallet is missing, and the specific help needed, where is the police station?
Precisely. And the local gives directions. "Yes, it's 2 streets down. Turn right at the coffee shop. It's next to the library." Helpful, actionable information.
And it's crucial, as the sources remind us, to know the actual emergency number for the place you're in. In the US, that's 911 for police, ambulance, fire.
Absolutely vital. And they also mention 311 in many U.S. cities for non-emergency city services, which can also be useful to know, though 911 is for immediate threats or dangers. Knowing the right number saves precious time.
Definitely something to look up before you travel anywhere new. Okay, so beyond emergencies and basic directions, there are other everyday situations where you might need a hand, right? Less urgent, maybe, but still common.
Oh, for sure. Travel and just daily life throw up all sorts of little logistical questions. Transportation is a big one.
Like finding a taxi.
Exactly. Asking, where can I find a taxi stand? Or maybe, is it easy to get a taxi around here? Are common needs, especially if you have luggage or in a hurry.
Or for public transport.
Is there a bus stop nearby? Or does the number 5 bus stop here? And a really common one for travelers, how can I get to the airport from here? That often requires more detailed info about trains, buses, or shuttles.
Yeah, airport logistics can be stressful. Good to know how to ask. What about language barriers, if you're struggling to communicate?
Our sources had some great tips here, starting with, do you speak English or Spanish or whatever language you need? Do you speak language is the first step.
Establishes if direct communication is possible.
Right. If not, or if things are complex, asking, could you write that down for me, please, can be incredibly helpful. Seeing something written, like an address or a name, bypasses pronunciation issues.
Oh, that's a brilliant tip, especially for street names that might be hard to catch.
Definitely. And linked to that, asking, can you spell the name of the street, is also really useful if you're trying to type it into a map app or write it down yourself.
Simple, but effective. Now, what about the modern problem? Technology failing us. Your phone dies, GPS goes weird.
Happens all the time. So knowing how to fall back on human help is key. You could say, my GPS isn't working. Can you give me directions to place?
Explains the situation clearly.
Or if your map says you're there, but you just can't see the place. The map shows I'm right here, but I can't seem to find the entrance shop. That invites the local to point out something obvious you might be missing.
Oh, it's just behind that scaffolding or something.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need a human eye.
All these extra scenarios really round out the picture. It's about having a phrase ready for lots of different little needs. Before we shift gears to hotels, though, let's summarize. What are the key takeaways, the sort of final tips for success when you're asking anyone for help on the street? It's more than just the words, right?
Absolutely. The nonverbal communication and your overall approach matter hugely. Number 1, as we've said, is politeness. A genuine smile, starting with excuse me, saying please and thank you, it just makes people far more receptive.
Creates a positive interaction from the get-go.
Definitely. Secondly, don't underestimate body language. Pointing towards where you think you need to go, gesturing towards a map, even using hand signals if there's a language barrier. It can clarify things immensely.
Visual cues helping bridge gaps. Makes sense.
Also, be prepared for brief answers. People might be busy. If you need more detail, or if they speak too quickly, don't be afraid to use those clarification phrases we talked about. Could you repeat that? Or could you slow down a bit?
Advocate for your own understanding politely.
Exactly. And the final, crucial step, gratitude. Always, always thank the person for their time and help. A warm thank you so much, I really appreciate your help, or thanks a lot, that's very helpful. It leaves a positive final impression.
Politeness and gratitude, the bookends of a successful interaction. Good advice. Okay, and there was a quick vocabulary recap in the sources too, wasn't there? For location terms.
Yes, just a few key terms that often come up in directions. Understanding intersection, where 2 streets cross.
Okay.
A block, usually the section of the street between 2 intersections.
Got it.
The corner, the point where 2 streets meet, often where you turn. And relative positions. Across from, meaning on the opposite side of the street.
Like the bank is across from the park.
Right. And next to, meaning immediately beside something. The pharmacy is next to the supermarket.
Knowing those basic terms definitely helps decode directions. Okay, and to really cement all this, the sources gave some specific examples in different contexts.
Yeah, just to illustrate how you might adapt the phrases. Like, in a huge place like New York City, trying to find Central Park, you might say, excuse me, I'm completely turned around. Can you help me find Central Park?
Expressing your state turned around can add context.
Okay, adds a bit of personality maybe. What about a small town looking for coffee?
You could try a slightly softer approach. Hi, sorry to bother you. Is there a nice coffee shop around here where I could sit down for a bit? A bit more conversational, maybe.
True. And in a confusing shopping mall, finding your way out.
Often needs a direct approach. Excuse me, could you tell me the quickest way to the parking lot exit, please? Clear, polite, specific goal.
Makes sense in a busy mall. And near a train station, finding where to buy tickets. Excuse me, could you point me towards the ticket office, or where do I buy train tickets? Simple, direct requests.
These examples really show the flexibility, don't they? You use the same core principles, politeness, clarity, but tweak the phrasing slightly for the situation.
Exactly. It's about adapting the tools to the specific job at hand.
Fantastic. Okay, I feel like we've really covered asking for help on the street thoroughly. Ready to move on to part two? Hotels.
Absolutely. Let's transition to the world of travel accommodations. Booking hotels, checking in, and perhaps most importantly, handling any issues that might crop up during your stay.
Right, because smooth travels often depend on smooth hotel experiences. Having the right language here can definitely reduce stress and make your trip better.
Couldn't agree more. From the very first step, making the reservation, to the final checkout, clear communication is key.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Booking a room. What are the main ways people do this, and what are the essential phrases we need?
Well, the sources highlight two main channels. The traditional way, which is booking directly with the hotel, either over the phone or sometimes in person if you walk in.
Okay.
And the increasingly common method, booking online, either through the hotel's own website or a third-party travel site like Booking.com or Expedia. This often involves confirming details via email or maybe an online chat feature too.
Right, online is huge now. Let's talk about the phone-in-person method first. What do you say?
A polite standard opening works best. Hello, I'd like to make a reservation, please. Or, good morning, I'm calling to book a room.
Simple and clear. Then you need to specify dates and room type.
Exactly. You'd follow up with, do you have any available rooms for your dates, say from July 10th to July 14th? Be specific. And then state your need. I'd like to book a single room, or a double room, or a family suite, whatever fits your needs.
Okay, dates and room type. What else is important to ask at this stage?
Definitely worth clarifying key amenities or inclusions. Asking, is breakfast included in that rate, is very common. Also, do you offer free Wi-Fi? That's a deal breaker for many people these days.
Oh yeah, Wi-Fi is essential for planning things on the go. Good point. Okay, so that's phone or in person. What about when you book online? You might still need to communicate, right? Maybe confirm something.
Yes, absolutely. Even after booking online, you might want to follow up via email or chat. You could say something like, hi, I just booked a room using your website for dates. Could you please confirm my reservation? Just for peace of mind.
Good idea. Or maybe ask about things not clearly stated online.
Exactly. Practical things like, is parking available at the hotel and is there a charge? Or maybe you know you'll be arriving very late. I expect to arrive around midnight. Can I request a late check-in? It's important to arrange that beforehand if possible.
Definitely better than showing up to a locked door. So whether booking directly or online, clarity is key.
It is. And our sources really stress confirming certain critical details during the booking process, no matter how you do it. Don't just assume.
Okay, what are those must-confirm items?
First, double-check the exact check-in and check-out times. They can vary between hotels.
Right, standard is often afternoon check-in, late morning checkout, but not always.
Exactly. Second, and this is crucial, understand the cancellation policy. What happens if your plans change? Is it free cancellation up to a certain date? Are there penalties? Knowing this can save you a lot of money and hassle.
Oh, absolutely. Read the fine print on cancellation.
Definitely. Third, ask about any potential extra fees. Things like mandatory resort fees, local taxes, service charges. Make sure you know the total cost, not just the base room rate.
Those hidden fees can be annoying if you're not expecting them.
They can. And finally, confirm any absolutely essential amenities. If you need that pool or the gym or reliable business center access, just double-check it's available and included during your stay dates.
Good advice. Confirm, confirm, confirm. Don't leave things to chance.
Okay, let's look at sample dialogue 1 again, the phone booking.
Right. The traveler starts. Good afternoon. I'd like to book a double room for 2 nights, checking in this Friday. Clear request. Room type, duration, arrival day.
Perfect.
Receptionist checks and confirms availability. Yes, we have a double room available. Then, importantly, they ask for clarification. Would you like a room with a king-size bed or 2 queen beds?
Okay. So even within double room, there can be options. That's good to know. You might have a preference.
Exactly. It shows the hotel is trying to accommodate guest needs. And it reminds you, the booker, that you might need to specify your preference if you have one. Don't assume double means 1 large bed.
Good point. Now, sample dialogue 2 was the online booking follow-up, right? Confirming parking.
Yes. The traveler sent a simple email. Hi, I booked a room for next weekend. Could you confirm if parking is included? Direct, specific question after the online transaction.
And the hotel replied clearly. Yep. Thank you for contacting us. Yes, complimentary parking is included for all registered guests. Clear, positive confirmation addresses the question directly.
So again, clear communication, whether spoken or written, gets the job done efficiently. Okay, booking handled. Now, fast forward to arrival day. You walk into the hotel lobby. It's time for check-in.
The moment of truth. Usually a pretty smooth process, but again, knowing what to say and what to expect helps.
So you walk up to the front desk. What's the standard opening line?
You can keep it simple. Hi, I have a reservation under the name your last name. That immediately tells them who you are and why you're there.
Okay. Or just,
hello, I'd like to check in, please.
Yeah.
They'll then likely ask for your name.
Right. Now, is this the time to make small requests? Like if you prefer a certain type of room location?
It can be, yes. Politely asking, could I possibly have a quiet room, perhaps away from the elevator, is a perfectly reasonable request. Hotels will often try to accommodate if they can, though it's not guaranteed.
Worth asking, though. What about checkout time? Can you ask about that now?
You can inquire about a late checkout now, yes.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it might be possible to arrange a late checkout on my departure day. Again, it depends heavily on how busy the hotel is, but asking at check-in gives them advance notice.
Good tip. Ask early if you think you might need it. Okay, so you've stated your name. What will the receptionist typically ask you for?
Almost universally, they'll ask for identification. Can I see your ID, your passport, please? And also a credit card. And could I take a credit card for incidentals?
Okay, ID is standard. Explain incidentals again.
Sure. Incidentals are basically any extra charges you might add to your room bill during your stay. Things not included in the room rate itself, like using the minibar, ordering room service, maybe pay-per-view movies, laundry services.
Got it. So they take your card as a sort of guarantee for those potential extras.
Exactly. Doesn't mean they charge it immediately, just that they have it on file. They might pre-authorize a certain amount.
Okay. What else might they ask?
Pretty standard things like, how many key cards would you like? And often, especially if you have luggage, would you like some help with your bags? Offering bellhop assistance.
Right. Seems straightforward enough. Sample Dialogue 3 showed a typical check-in, didn't it?
Yes, very standard. Receptionist. Good evening. Welcome. Do you have a reservation? Traveler. Yes, I do. It's under the name John Smith. Receptionist. Perfect. May I see your ID and a credit card, please?
Short, sweet, and to the point, covers the essentials.
Exactly. It's usually a quick functional exchange.
And sometimes at check-in, they might offer you things, right? Like upgrades.
Yes, that can happen. Depending on availability, your loyalty, status, or just hotel policy, they might offer you an upgrade to a room with a better view or a larger room category. Sometimes for free, sometimes for an extra charge.
Okay.
They might also offer things like discounted breakfast packages if breakfast wasn't included in your rate, or maybe access to the executive lounge if the hotel has one. Again, possibly for an additional fee.
Good to be aware those offers might come up so you can decide if they're worth it for you. Okay, check-in complete. You have your key. Now let's talk about the less pleasant part. What happens when things go wrong? Handling problems at the hotel.
Right. Even the best hotels can sometimes have issues, and knowing how to address them effectively, politely, but firmly is really important for getting things resolved and enjoying your stay.
Absolutely. You don't want one problem to ruin your whole trip. So let's tackle some common ones. Problem 1 from the sources. You arrive at check-in time, but your room isn't ready yet. Ugh, that's frustrating.
It can be, especially after traveling. The key here is to be understanding but also proactive. You could say, I understand you're busy, but I arrived at the scheduled check-in time. Is there an estimated time my room might be ready?
Okay, acknowledges their situation, but restates your expectation and asks for info.
Exactly. Or focus on the practical. Okay, while I wait, would it be possible to leave my luggage securely here? Maybe I can grab some lunch. This shows you're willing to wait, but want to make use of the time and need your bags stored.
Good options. Okay, problem 2. You get to your room, and it's not what you booked. Maybe the wrong bed type, or smoking instead of non-smoking.
This requires being clear and specific about the discrepancy. Go back to the front desk or call them and say politely, excuse me, I've just gotten to my room number, and I believe I reserved a room with a king-size bed, but this one has 2 twin beds.
State the expected versus actual.
Precisely. Or, my reservation confirmation states a non-smoking room, but there's a distinct smell of smoke in here. Could you please check if there's another non-smoking room available for me? Be factual and focus on finding a solution.
Right. Avoid being accusatory. Just state the facts. Okay, problem 3. Cleanliness issues. You walk in, and maybe the bathroom isn't sparkling or the carpet looks like it missed a vacuum.
Yeah, that's definitely unpleasant. Again, report it promptly and politely. I'm sorry to mention this, but the bathroom in my room doesn't seem to have been cleaned properly. Could you possibly send someone from housekeeping up?
Focus on the solution, getting it cleaned.
Yes. Or if it's more widespread or you just feel uncomfortable, you might escalate slightly. Actually, I'm not feeling very comfortable with the cleanliness of the room overall. Would it be possible to move to a different room, please?
Okay. Good to have that option in mind if needed. Problem 4. Noise. Loud neighbors, hallway noise, street noise. This can really ruin your sleep.
Definitely a common complaint. If it's noise from neighbors, the first step is usually to call the front desk. Sorry to bother you late, but the guests in the room next to mine are being quite loud. Could you possibly give them a quiet call?
Asking the hotel to intervene.
Yes. Or if it's persistent or you're particularly sensitive, you could ask about moving. Is there any possibility of switching to a room in a quieter part of the hotel? I'm having trouble sleeping with the noise.
Again, focusing on a solution. Okay, and problem 5 covered a sort of grab bag of other common issues.
Right. Things like technology failing. If the Wi-Fi isn't working in your room, hi, I'm having trouble connecting to the Wi-Fi in room number. Could someone perhaps help me with that?
Okay, asking for technical assistance.
Or environmental controls. The air conditioning doesn't seem to be working, or the heating seems stuck on high. Could someone please take a look? A polite request for maintenance.
Makes sense. And finally, billing issues. Spotting a mistake on your bill.
This usually happens at checkout, but if you notice something earlier, address it calmly. Excuse me, I was looking at my current charges and there's an item here I don't recognize. Could we perhaps go over the bill? Invites a collaborative review.
Good approach. That accusatory, just let's clarify this. It seems the running theme for all these problems is be polite, be clear about the issue, and focus on requesting a solution.
That's exactly it. Hotel staff are usually trained to handle complaints and want guests to be happy within reason. Approaching problems calmly and clearly gives them the best chance to help you effectively. Escalating calmly if the first attempt doesn't work is also okay.
Right. Okay, hopefully any issues are resolved, you've had your stay. Now it's time for the final step, checking out.
The departure. Usually much quicker than check-in.
What are the key phrases for a smooth checkout?
It's pretty straightforward. Approach the desk and say, "Hi, I'd like to check out, please." Your room number. Stating your room number helps them pull up your account quickly.
Okay. And getting the bill.
Definitely ask for a final copy. Could I get a receipt, please? Or could I have a copy of the final bill? Essential for your records, or if you need to expense the trip.
Always get that receipt. Good advice. What about onward travel? Need a taxi?
Checkout is the perfect time to ask. Could you please call a taxi for me? Or could you recommend the best way to get to the train station from here?
Convenient. And the luggage storage we mentioned earlier.
Yes, if your flight or train is later in the day, ask. My flight isn't until this evening. Would it be possible to store my luggage here for a few hours after I check out? Most hotels offer this service, often complimentary.
Such a useful service. Frees you up for some last-minute sightseeing. Okay, and sample dialogue 4 showed a checkout with that luggage request.
Exactly. Receptionist. Good morning. Checking out today, traveler. Yes, I am. Room 305. And I was wondering, would it be possible to leave my bags here until about 3 p.m.? Receptionist. Absolutely. We can store those for you. Just come back to the desk when you're ready to collect them.
Smooth, friendly, helpful, ideal checkout.
That's the goal.
So, key checkout steps: stateroom number, get the bill, arrange transport or luggage storage if needed. Simple enough. Now, similar to the street directions part, the sources also provided a hotel-specific vocabulary list.
Yes, just a few common terms that are helpful to know when you're in a hotel environment. We've touched on some already. Reservation, or booking the arrangement to hold a room for you.
Okay.
Amenities, those extra features like the pool, gym, spa, business center, free breakfast, Wi-Fi.
The hotel's facilities and services.
Right. The concierge, that helpful staff member, often in the lobby, who can assist with things outside the basic room booking, like booking tours, getting theater tickets, making restaurant recommendations and reservations.
Ah, the local expert on staff.
Kind of, yeah. The lobby is, of course, the main entrance and reception area. Housekeeping is the department, and the staff responsible for cleaning the rooms.
Okay.
The front desk or reception, where you check in, check out, and ask most general questions. Incidentals, those extra charges we discussed, beyond the room and tax.
Mini bar, room service, etc.
Exactly. And late checkout, the arrangement to stay in your room past the standard departure time, often subject to availability and sometimes a fee.
Knowing those terms definitely helps you understand what hotel staff are talking about and ask clearer questions yourself.
Okay.
Okay, and again, to make it real, some practical examples in different hotel contexts.
Sure. For instance, checking into a more upscale luxury hotel, You might combine check-in with an amenity question. Good afternoon, checking in. Reservation for name. I was also curious about the spa. Could you tell me the opening hours and how to book a treatment?
Shows interest in their specific offerings. Okay. What about a budget hotel? Maybe confirming basics.
You might want to double-check inclusions. Hi, I have a booking. Could you just confirm if towels and basic toiletries like soap are provided in the room? Manages expectations for a simpler accommodation.
Good idea. Don't assume anything. And dealing with a mistake, like the room feature example.
Right. If you booked a room specifically because it had a balcony, for instance, and yours doesn't. Excuse me. I believe my reservation confirmation mentioned a balcony room. This room doesn't seem to have one. Is it possible there was a mix-up, or is another room available? Polite but clear about the expected feature.
Again, stating the facts and asking for a resolution. Okay. And finally, there were some bonus phrases for slightly less common but still possible situations.
Yeah, just a few useful extras like if your travel plans change drastically, your flight gets canceled. You might need to ask, "Hi, unfortunately my flight was canceled. Is there any possibility I could stay an extra night?"
Good one to have in your back pocket for travel chaos.
Definitely. Or a simple request. Needing a wake-up call. Could you please schedule a wake-up call for me tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.? Still a useful service for some.
True, not everyone relies solely on their phone alarm.
And the classic mishap. Losing your key card. It happens. Just go to the front desk and say, "Excuse me, I seem to have misplaced my room key for room number. Could I please get a replacement?" They'll likely check your ID again for security.
Of course. Good to know the simple phrase for that potentially embarrassing moment.
Exactly. Makes it less stressful.
Wow, okay. We have really gone through a lot today. From asking a stranger for directions to the nearest bus stop, all the way to handling a noisy neighbor in a hotel or dealing with a reservation mix-up. That was comprehensive.
It really was. We covered quite a range of practical, real-world communication scenarios. And the goal, as we said at the start, was to break it all down, provide those key phrases, and hopefully boost your confidence in handling these situations yourself.
I certainly feel like listeners should have a much clearer idea of what to say and how to say it now. It's about having those tools ready, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Preparation makes such a difference. Knowing you have a few go-to phrases for asking for help or for addressing a problem politely, it just reduces the anxiety of the unknown.
Takes the potential stress out of needing help or dealing with a minor travel issue, turns it into just a manageable conversation.
Precisely. And remember those overarching tips: politeness, clarity, gratitude, using body language, asking for clarification. They apply across almost all these situations.
Universal communication skills, really. We strongly encourage you, our listeners, to actually try using some of these phrases. Maybe start small, asking for simple directions, even if you vaguely know the way, just to practice.
That's a great suggestion. Practice builds fluency and confidence. The more you use these phrases, the more natural they'll become. You'll find your own way of saying them comfortably.
And hopefully, these skills will make your travels smoother, your errands less confusing, and your overall interactions in English more positive and effective.
That's the ultimate aim, empowering you with the language you need for real life.
And the range of material you mentioned is, it's really impressive. We've got a YouTube video transcript from Zach Hiley, 8 Habits That Quickly Changed My Life, which offers some very sort of direct and practical strategies.
Right, very actionable.
Exactly. Then there's the Crea para cuidar da saúde mental o equilibrio da sua vida from Unimid Campinas. That one gives us a broader perspective on overall well-being.
A more holistic view, maybe.
Yeah, precisely. And we also have a couple of insightful articles. One's O Poder dos Pequenos Hábitos para Grandes Mudanças from R.H. Pravose, focusing on the kind of surprisingly significant impact of tiny habits.
The small steps idea.
That's the one. And then, Porque praticar a gratidão é indispensável, segundo a neurociência from Forbes, Brazil. That one delves into the science behind gratitude. Really fascinating stuff.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that bit.
And rounding it all out, we have this amazing Reddit thread. What are some habits that have genuinely changed your life for the better? It gives us that ground level view, you know? What's actually working for real people?
Perfect. So our mission today is to synthesize all this great information. We want to go beyond just summarizing each source, really dig into the core principles.
Get to the heart of it.
Exactly. Our goal is to provide you with actionable takeaways and maybe those aha moments that can help you implement positive changes without feeling, overwhelmed by a mountain of new info.
Makes sense. Less overwhelm, more action.
Right. Okay, let's get started. One theme that just pops up again and again in several of these sources is the incredible power of writing, specifically journaling.
That's right. Zach Hiley actually kicks off his 8 habits with that exact suggestion: daily writing. Even if it's just for, say, 5 to 10 minutes in the morning.
Just a short burst.
Yeah. And he frames it as a way to declutter your mind, basically, gain some clarity for the day ahead. He even shares some pretty compelling examples to illustrate the point.
He does. He talks about Benjamin Franklin, doesn't he? How he used his journal not just for daily notes, but as a tool for intentional self-improvement, tracking his progress on specific virtues and such.
Yeah, really methodical.
And then Stephen King with his disciplined approach to writing, aiming for that consistent word count every single day. It highlights that idea that, consistent effort often beats just waiting for inspiration.
Right. Showing up matters.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Zach mentions a study. Students who spent just a few minutes each morning writing down, I think it was 2 things they were grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
They showed significant improvements in test scores, overall life satisfaction, and even their happiness levels. It really makes you wonder, what's actually going on there?
It really does. And it seems it's more than just, thinking positive. Studies have shown that regularly focusing on gratitude actually triggers the release of dopamine in your brain.
Ah, dopamine, the reward chemical.
Exactly. It's a neurotransmitter linked to pleasure and reward. So by consciously acknowledging the good stuff in your life, you're basically creating this positive feedback loop in your brain.
Okay, so that could explain the increased happiness feelings.
It likely does. And as for the better test scores and life satisfaction, well, it could be that this practice fosters a more positive outlook, reduces stress perhaps, and that, in turn, might improve focus and just general well-being.
That makes so much sense. So it's not just a nice idea, there's a real biological basis for it.
Seems that way.
Now, Zach gives us some very practical steps for actually starting with journaling, right? He doesn't just say, do it. No, he's very practical. He suggests something as simple as, buying a physical journal and a pen, making the act itself more intentional.
Getting the tools ready.
Right. Then he recommends scheduling just 5 minutes. Put it in your calendar if you have to.
Okay, manageable.
And he even offers a simple framework. He calls it the 1, 2, 3 strategy. First, a brain dump, just get everything out. Second, identify 2 main goals for the day.
2 key things.
Mm-hmm. And third, list 3 things you're grateful for. He says it takes him 4 minutes, and he considers it a total game changer for his mental clarity and focus.
4 minutes for that kind of clarity. Wow. And it's not just Zach saying this, is it? That Reddit thread you found is apparently full of people echoing this.
Oh, definitely. It's packed. People mention using journaling for all sorts of things: reflection, getting a better handle on their emotions, tracking personal growth over time.
Well, seeing how far they've come.
Exactly. We saw comments about tracking moods, which ties right back to that emotional well-being piece we just discussed. One user even described their journal becoming a healthier alternative to, endlessly scrolling social media.
A paper-based digital detox. I like that.
Yeah. And there was also that really interesting concept of worry journaling that popped up in the thread.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that again. That sounded useful.
The idea is dedicating a specific space, maybe a page or a section in your journal, just to explore your worries.
Okay.
The Reddit user explained how they'd write down what was bothering them. Then they'd try to figure out if those worries were based on, actual facts or just hypothetical what-ifs.
Ah, reality check.
Precisely. And if it was a real concern, something they could actually do something about, they'd brainstorm potential action steps right there in the journal.
It's like giving your anxieties a designated parking spot so they don't just roam free in your head all day.
That's a great way to put it. It's a very proactive, very insightful approach to managing anxiety, I think. And it's interesting, this aligns quite well with the Unimed Campinas guide, too.
How so?
Well, they specifically recommend incorporating a relaxing and self-care moment. And they list examples like reading, having tea, or writing in a diary.
There it is, yeah.
So across these really diverse sources, YouTube, Reddit, a health guide, we see this consistent message. Taking a few moments to write things down, it can be a really powerful tool for both mental clarity and emotional well-being.
Okay, that's a strong start. Let's move on to another foundational habit that seems to have a huge impact. Starting your day with exercise and sunlight. Zach Hiley, he calls his morning trail, runs a superpower, right?
He does. because they combine the benefits of being in nature, getting that morning sunlight, and physical activity all in one go.
The trifecta.
Pretty much. And what's really compelling is how these elements can kind of work together, amplifying their individual benefits. And that Unimed Campinas guide, it provides a lot of detail on the sunlight aspect, specifically its role in vitamin D synthesis.
Right. The guide makes it super clear that our bodies don't just make vitamin D on their own. We need that exposure to UVB radiation from the sun. It triggers the process in our skin.
And they list a whole host of benefits linked to having enough vitamin D, strong muscles, bones, a healthy immune system, cardiovascular function, even metabolism. It's involved in a lot.
It really is. Does the guide give specifics on, like, how much sun we need?
It does, actually. It suggests that around 5 to 10 minutes of direct sun exposure per day can provide roughly 3,000 international units, or IU, of vitamin D for people with lighter skin.
Okay, 5 to 10 minutes isn't that long.
No. And they wisely advise on the safest times for this exposure, generally before 10 a.m. and after 4 p.m. That's when the sun's rays are less intense, lower risk of sunburn.
Good advice.
Of course, individual needs can vary, based on skin type, where you live, time of year, all that.
Sure, makes sense. But it's a good starting point. And they offer some practical ways to actually get that sunlight into your routine, don't they?
Yeah, simple stuff like having your morning coffee outside, taking a walk during your lunch break, maybe just sitting by a sunny window while you read or have tea.
Little changes.
Exactly. Or even incorporating movement into your commute, like walking or cycling part of the way, if that's feasible for you. It's about finding those small opportunities.
Soaking up the rays bit by bit.
And the Unimed Guide also stresses the broader importance of just keeping our bodies physically active. They recommend starting slowly if you're not currently active, focusing on consistency, aiming for at least, say, 3 physical activity sessions per week.
Starting slow, staying consistent. That sounds achievable. And this lines up perfectly with the Reddit thread too, right?
Oh, absolutely. So many users mentioned exercise and movement walking, yoga, gym, even just dancing in their living room as a habit that had a profoundly positive impact, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, the mind-body connection.
Definitely. It really seems like that combination, moving your body and getting some daily sunlight, can be a really powerful 1-2 punch for well-being.
Okay, powerful combo indeed. Now, let's shift focus slightly to another habit that consistently comes up as beneficial. Reading.
Ah, yes, reading. Zach Hiley is quite passionate about this one. He argues it unlocks incredible potential for learning, personal growth, expanding our whole understanding of the world.
And he frames it as a way to reclaim time, doesn't he? Time we might otherwise spend mindlessly scrolling on our phones.
Exactly. He makes a really compelling point about the cumulative effect. He suggests that if we redirect even some of that phone time, maybe just 30 minutes a day to reading.
Just 30 minutes.
Yeah. Over a year or several years, that adds up to a massive amount of knowledge gained, different perspectives encountered. He specifically recommends aiming for at least that 30-minute session daily.
Sounds like a worthwhile investment in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this sentiment is echoed strongly in the Reddit thread. Users talk about daily reading increasing their knowledge, sure, but also helping them develop greater empathy.
Empathy. How so?
By exposing them to different viewpoints, different characters, different life experiences through stories or nonfiction, it seems to enrich multiple parts of life.
That's interesting. Reading for empathy. And it can serve different needs too, right? Like active learning versus relaxation.
Precisely. Sometimes it's about seeking out new info, learning a skill. Other times it's just a source of escape, a way to unwind.
And the Unimed Campinas guide mentions reading too.
It does, specifically suggesting it as a relaxing self-care activity, maybe part of your bedtime routine, to help improve sleep quality.
Ah, okay. Winding down with a book.
Exactly. So whether it's for active learning, broadening horizons, or just relaxing before sleep, reading seems to be a consistently positive habit across all these different sources we're looking at.
It really does seem universal. Okay, let's tackle a big one, something many of us struggle with in this digital age. Reclaiming our time by, well, minimizing phone usage.
Yeah, this is a hot topic. Zach Hiley takes a pretty strong stance here. He suggests aiming for just 30 minutes of total phone screen time per day.
30 minutes, that sounds intense. Especially he mentions the average might be, 4 hours or more?
It's a significant drop for sure. And He shares a pretty direct strategy for actually trying to achieve this.
Which is?
Designating a specific spot for your phone when you're not actively using it, like putting it in another room maybe, and strictly limiting the times you allow yourself to check it.
So schedule check-ins.
Kind of. Maybe just 15 minutes in the morning, 15 in the evening, something like that. He talks about it almost like a daily digital fast.
A digital fast. And the Reddit community, are they on board with this?
Very much so, it seems. Many users reported that deleting social media apps entirely, or at least severely limiting their access, was a major positive change.
For what specifically?
For their mental health, their ability to focus, their overall productivity. People emphasized the huge sense of relief they felt not being constantly bombarded by notifications, less mental clutter.
Yeah, I can see that. That constant stream of updates, notifications.
Yeah.
It really does fragment your attention, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's hard to get into deep work or even just relax properly sometimes.
Okay, so less phone, more focus.
Got it.
Yeah. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about how we approach learning itself. Zach highly emphasizes mastering the fundamentals, right? Not just memorizing facts.
Exactly. What's particularly insightful is his reference to Bloom's taxonomy. It's a framework for cognitive skills.
Bloom's taxonomy, okay.
Zach highlights the understanding level, being able to explain things in your own words, and the applying level, using knowledge in new situations. He sees those as truly transformative.
So deeper learning, not just surface level stuff.
Right. His argument is, if you have a really solid grasp of the foundational principles, you can apply that knowledge in unique, creative ways. Ways that someone who just memorized facts simply couldn't.
He uses that analogy about explaining things simply, right? Like
Yeah.
to a 5-year-old.
Yeah, that's a great one. The best teachers, the people who truly get a subject, can often break down complex ideas very simply. It shows real depth of understanding.
And how do we build that foundation? What's the first step?
He suggests the crucial first step is figuring out what genuinely interests you.
Following your curiosity.
Exactly. When you're genuinely interested, you're naturally more motivated to dig deeper, ask questions, really understand the why behind things. It turns learning from a chore into, well, a pursuit.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's move to something a bit more aspirational, maybe. The power of setting big, exciting goals.
Yeah, this is where Zach's enthusiasm really comes through. He encourages us to identify and actually work towards personal projects that are genuinely exciting, maybe even a little bit scary in their ambition.
Scary, exciting.
Kind of. He quotes Paul Graham, emphasizing the importance of preserving that initial excitingness and following where your curiosity leads, even if it feels excessive.
Tapping into that intrinsic motivation.
That's the core of it, pursuing something you truly care about. Zach even shares his own story, right? Leaving medicine to pursue ventures he found more creatively fulfilling.
That's a huge leap.
It is, but it illustrates the power of aligning your actions with your passions. He argues that when you're genuinely excited, you're more likely to push through challenges and make a bigger impact.
And he gives examples too, doesn't he? People who achieved amazing things.
Right. He mentions Marie Curie making huge scientific discoveries while navigating personal challenges, and Abraham Lincoln rising from humble beginnings, both driven by this deep commitment.
So it's about finding that inner drive.
And his actionable step here is really thought-provoking. He challenges us. Think of something so incredibly exciting that you'd happily spend the next 48 hours straight working on it.
Whoa, 48 hours straight.
It's a thought experiment, right? To identify that deep, intrinsic motivation that can fuel extraordinary effort.
That's a powerful exercise. Okay, finding the exciting thing. Now, let's get practical again. The 7th habit. Quantifiable inputs, making things measurable.
Yes. This is about bringing concrete measurement to the actions we take towards our goals.
So, not just work harder, but do X amount of this.
Exactly. He advises adding specific, measurable numbers to your goals and tracking them regularly. He references the book The 12-Week Year here.
Okay, and why is this so important?
The idea is that by focusing on and measuring your inputs, the specific actions you take consistently, you get a much clearer picture of what's actually working and what might need adjusting in your strategy.
So you know if your effort is actually moving the needle.
Precisely. He really cautions against vague intentions like, I'll figure it out later. He advocates for written, numerical targets for your actions.
Like what kind of actions?
He even shares a personal example, scheduling small tasks, like haircuts or gym sessions, into his week. Quantifying those inputs, This detail allows for much better tracking.
Makes it easier to see where you're hitting your marks or falling short.
Exactly. And we saw this come up on Reddit too, didn't we? People mentioning using habit trackers.
Yeah, lots of mentions of habit trackers. Apps, notebooks.
Right. Whether digital or analog, it highlights that idea.
Yeah.
What gets measured often gets managed, or at least noticed.
Okay, measurable inputs. Now, the eighth habit Zach discusses. It seems a bit counterintuitive after just talking about measuring things, but it's about focusing on inputs, not just outputs.
Yes, this is a really crucial distinction. While tracking your actions, inputs, is valuable, he warns against becoming overly fixated on the end results, the outputs.
Why is that? Isn't the result the whole point?
Well, he explains that the equation determining our outcomes is often incredibly complex. It involves tons of factors beyond our direct control.
Like what?
Market forces, unpredictable events, other people's actions, even just plain luck, things we can't manage directly.
Ah, okay, so focus on what you can control.
Exactly. He uses the example of creating YouTube content. It's natural to want likes and subscribers, the outputs. But the most effective approach, focus on consistently making good, engaging stuff the inputs.
Control the process, not the outcome.
Pretty much. He does add a small caveat, though. Occasionally checking the outputs is useful for course correction, just to make sure your efforts are generally pointed in the right direction.
Makes sense. A little feedback is good.
Right. And he wraps this point up with a really powerful quote from the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh yeah, what was it?
You are not entitled to the fruits of your labor, only the labor itself.
Wow, that's grounding. Focus on the work, not the reward.
It's a helpful perspective, isn't it? Especially when the world often pushes us to focus only on outcomes. Now, Zach threw in a bonus tip in his video, too, about environment and focus, specifically coffee shops.
Coffee shops, really? How does that help focus?
Well, his theory is that the relatively minimalist environment compared to maybe a cluttered home office.
That's distraction.
Right? And also a subtle sense of peer pressure. Seeing other people working diligently around you can kind of motivate you to do the same.
The everyone else is working effect.
Exactly. He suggests actually scheduling blocks of focused work time in these kinds of external environments. It's a clever way to kind of leverage your surroundings.
Interesting hack. Okay, so we've covered Zach's habits. Now, one theme that really ties a lot of this together and is strongly backed by the other sources is gratitude. You mentioned that Forbes Brazil article about the neuroscience.
Yes. Such an insightful piece. It explains that gratitude is more than just feeling positive. It involves a deeper recognition of the good in our lives and often an acknowledgement that the source of that good is at least partly external.
External, meaning?
Like it comes from other people's actions or the beauty of nature or maybe even a sense of something larger than ourselves. It's not just, I did this.
Okay, acknowledging outside sources and the neuroscience. What's happening in the brain?
This is where it gets really cool. The article highlights the activation of the brain's reward system, specifically the ventral tegmental area and the nucleus accumbens when we experience and express gratitude.
The reward system again. Like with dopamine earlier.
Exactly. This activation leads to dopamine release, that feel-good neurotransmitter. It creates a positive reinforcement loop, making us more likely to feel and express gratitude again in the future.
So gratitude feels good, chemically speaking.
It does. And the article mentions a UCLA study showing increased activation in the medial prefrontal cortex, an area linked to social connection and positive emotion after just 3 months of consistent gratitude practice. It suggests lasting changes in brain function.
Wow, 3 months can change your brain patterns. And does it help with stress too?
Significantly, it seems. The article explains that gratitude activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system.
The opposite of fight or flight.
Exactly. It counteracts that stress response. This leads to a greater sense of calm, lower levels of stress hormones, like cortisol. Research has even linked gratitude to better sleep and better heart rate variability.
Heart rate variability, what's that indicate?
It's a good indicator of a well-regulated, resilient nervous system. Basically, your body's ability to adapt to stress.
Okay, so less stress, better sleep, more resilience. What about the amygdala? Doesn't that process fear?
Good point. The article touches on that too. It mentions research suggesting gratitude can modulate the amygdala's activity. It might decrease its reactivity to stressors.
Meaning you might not react as strongly to bad news or difficult situations.
That seems to be the implication. Less intense emotional reactions when faced with challenges.
So, neuroscientifically speaking, gratitude is pretty powerful stuff, not just a fluffy concept.
Not at all. It has tangible, measurable benefits for brain chemistry, stress response, emotional regulation. It really backs up Zach Hiley's suggestion of a morning gratitude journal, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And it's fascinating how the Reddit thread reflects this too. You said people specifically mentioned gratitude journals.
Yeah, numerous users. They talked about actively practicing gratitude journaling, just taking moments to appreciate things, having a significant positive impact on their mood, their perspective, their resilience.
The science and the real-world experience line up perfectly there.
It really seems to. Now, let's bring in that R.H. Pravase article, the one focusing on the power of small habits, pequeños hábitos.
Right, the micro-habits idea, B.J. Fogg's work.
Exactly. It emphasizes how these seemingly tiny new behaviors, done consistently, can bring surprising levels of lightness, happiness, even motivation.
It's less about massive willpower, more about small, easy wins.
That's the feeling. Starting small, building momentum. It really resonates with the overall message here, and it ties directly into the Unimed Campinas Guide's emphasis on incorporating manageable, healthy habits into daily routines.
Yeah, not trying to overhaul everything overnight. That usually just leads to burnout.
Precisely. It's about sustainable change through small, consistent steps. And this brings us neatly to that comprehensive view from the Unimed Guide. It offers a really holistic framework for well-being.
It goes beyond just single habits, right?
Yeah.
It looks at the bigger picture.
Exactly. It emphasizes how different aspects of our lives are interconnected, nurturing health on multiple levels. For instance, they dedicate significant sections to healthy eating.
What are the key takeaways there?
Prioritizing nutrient-rich, minimally processed foods, varying your diet, focusing on whole, natural foods, being mindful of refined sugars, opting for lean proteins. They even give that visual of a healthy plate, balancing carbs, protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, healthy fats.
Food as fuel.
That's the analogy they use. Then there's a big focus on sleep quality,
which we know is crucial. What's their advice?
They highlight sleep's restorative functions, give recommended durations for different ages, and lots of practical tips. Creating a good sleep environment, regular schedule, minimizing screens before bed.
The usual suspects, but important reminders.
Definitely. Relaxing rituals, even considering your mattress quality. Then hydration.
Drink more water.
Basically, yeah. Reminding us how much of our body is water, the need for constant replenishment. Practical tips like carrying a water bottle, using tracking apps, even checking urine color as an indicator.
Simple but vital.
Yeah.
What else does the Unimed Guide cover?
Meditation gets a strong recommendation. They highlight benefits for physical and mental health, even immune function and sleep. And they debunk myths you don't need a lotus position or mantras.
So making it accessible.
Very much so. Suggesting simple practices like quiet stillness, breath focus, recommending guided meditation apps or resources too.
Okay. What about connecting with the outside world?
Big emphasis on connecting with nature. They cite studies from Harvard and Chiba University showing benefits like reduced mortality risk for some diseases, lower blood pressure, less stress from time spent in nature.
Wow. So getting outside is literally good for your health.
Seems so. They suggest visiting parks, gardening, even just having indoor plants, and also connecting with people.
Social connection.
The fundamental human need. Benefits of friendships, meaningful conversations, suggesting ways to meet people, emphasizing face-to-face interaction for well-being, even scheduling social time.
Making time for friends, important.
And making time for yourself. Quality me time. They stress how essential dedicated personal time is for hobbies, relaxation, emotional balance, suggesting scheduling it so it doesn't get lost.
Protect your personal time. Good point. Anything else major?
One final crucial point, respecting your emotions.
How do they frame that?
They highlight the link between unexpressed emotions and potential psychosomatic issues, emphasizing the importance of feeling and processing feelings, learning to say no, practicing self-compassion, avoiding harsh self-criticism.
Emotional health is physical health.
Essentially, yes. It's a really important reminder about that mind-body connection.
So, reflecting on all this, this incredible wealth of insight from Zach, the guides, the articles, Reddit, a really clear picture emerges, doesn't it?
It really does.
Positive, lasting change. It's generally not about those dramatic overnight transformations. It's about the consistent, intentional application of small, thoughtful actions, repeated over time.
That's a really powerful and honestly quite encouraging takeaway, I think. And for you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has sparked some ideas, given you some concrete strategies.
Yeah, maybe take a moment after this. Reflect on which of these habits or insights really resonate with you right now.
Consider what small, manageable step you might be able to take, maybe in the next few days or weeks. Just integrating one or two of these principles into your own life.
And on that note, here's a final thought to ponder. Inspired by Zach Hiley's nudge towards big, exciting projects and falling curiosity.
Okay, lay it on us.
What's one area of intense interest, or maybe even that insanely exciting project that you've been kind of putting off or haven't quite dared to explore fully?
Ooh, good question.
Perhaps now's a good time to think about what small initial steps you could take to just begin delving into that area, fueled by your own curiosity and the potential for discovery.
A little spark to light a bigger fire. I like it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We truly hope this exploration of these valuable sources has given you some actionable knowledge.
And maybe inspired you a bit on your own personal journey towards a more balanced and fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
And remember, the journey of building a better life, it's continuous. Every small, consistent step you take really does count. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Until next time.
Until our next deep dive, take good care.